In our last module, we have discussed small sample properties of U statistics. Small sample properties include unbiasedness and minimum variance. In this module, we provide some large sample properties of U statistics. Large sample properties include consistency and asymptotic normality. However, we provide only an outline of a proof of asymptotic normality of U statistics. Lastly, we shall discuss degeneracy of a U statistic and support by an example. We have already discussed that the full set of order statistics are complete sufficient, and U statistic is a function of order statistics. Also, U statistic is unbiased. We also derived the exact variance of U statistic and minimum variance property of U statistic. Thus, we have considered only the small sample properties of U statistic. Now, we shall discuss the behavior of U statistic when sample size becomes large. To judge the performance of an estimator in large samples, we generally use consistency and asymptotic normality. In consistency, we try to find the limiting value of the statistic. In fact, consistency is nothing but the convergence in probability. In addition, consider asymptotic normality, that is, whether a properly scaled and normed version of U statistic has a normal distribution in the limit or not. Consistency gives a limiting value, whereas asymptotic normality specifies the rate of convergence to the limiting value. We note that a consistent estimator having asymptotic normality is known as consistent asymptotic normal or a CAN estimator. We shall examine whether U statistic is a CAN estimator. Suppose UN is a U statistic with kernels of degree k and sigma 1 square greater than 0 and sigma I square less than infinity for every I greater than equal to 1. Then the limiting value of variance of square root of n into UN is k square sigma 1 square. For the proof, first of all, consider that the variance of square root of an UN is nothing but the n times the variance of UN. So, let us consider the behavior of n into p nk. Now, by definition, for any a, n minus k choose k minus a can be expressed as product of n minus k minus j for j varying between 0 and k minus a minus 1. Now, we look at the right hand side of the expression of n minus k choose k minus a divided by n choose k. For any a n times, n minus k choose k minus a divided by n choose k equal to k factorial by k minus a factorial into n minus k up to n minus 2k plus a plus 1 divided by n into n minus 1 up to n minus k plus 1. Now, the numerator is the product of k minus a plus 1 terms, while the denominator involves k terms, each term being linear in n. Assume a greater than 1. Then the right hand side converges to 0, but for a equal to 1, the right hand side converges to k factorial by k minus 1 factorial, that is k. Thus, n multiplied by the product of k choose a and n minus k choose k minus a whole thing divided by n choose k goes to 0 as n tends to infinity whenever a greater than 1, and for a equal to 1, the same thing converges to k into k choose a as n tends to infinity. Thus, n into p n k m tends to 0 for m greater than 1 and tends to k square for m equal to 1. Note that we have assumed that sigma I square are finite for every I. Then all the terms in the expression of n into variance of un goes to 0 as n tends to infinity, except the first term. The first term approaches k square sigma 1 square. Thus, as n tends to infinity, n into variance of un converges to k square sigma 1 square, where k is fixed. Hence, we reach the desired result. However, our original objective was to prove consistency of U statistic. Recall that two sufficient conditions of consistency is that expectation converges to a finite quantity and variance goes to 0 as sample size increases. Thus, we need to check whether expected value of un approaches a finite quantity and variance of un tends to 0. Now, by definition, un is unbiased for theta f. Thus, the first condition is automatically satisfied. Now, come to the variance condition. Note that we have in our hand the result that variance of square root of n multiplied by un tends to 0. Now, variance of un can be expressed as variance of square root of n into un divided by n. Then, by the already discussed result, n times variance of un tends to k square sigma 1 square. And it is well known that 1 by n also tends to 0. Thus, variance of un is a product of two converging sequences, one converging to a finite quantity and the other to 0. Hence, the product, that is variance of un, also converges to 0 as n tends to infinity. Thus, U satisfies all the conditions required for consistency. Therefore, U statistic is consistent. Next, come to the asymptotic normality of U statistic. If sigma 1 square greater than 0, then as n tends to infinity, the limiting distribution of square root of n un minus theta is a normal with mean 0 and variance k square sigma 1 square. The relevance of sigma 1 square greater than 0 is that it is the least among sigma 1 square up to sigma k square, and hence sigma 1 square greater than 0 ensures that the other sigma I square are also non-zero. First of all, we start with the consequence of sigma 1 square equal to 0. If sigma 1 square equal to 0, we have un equal to theta f with probability 1. The convergence to a normal variable does not hold in this case. However, if sigma 1 square equal to 0, together with a positive sigma 2 square, the convergence to a normal variable does not hold. In fact, in such a case, a change in norming factor ensures the asymptotic distribution to be non-degenerate. For a proof, we refer the interested reader to the book by Scharfling of 1980. Thus, for simplicity, we always assume that sigma 1 square is strictly positive. First of all, we note that un is not a sum of IID random variables, so that the large sample distribution cannot be obtained by a straightforward application of the central limit theorem. Now, consider the representation. Square root of n un minus theta f equal to k by root n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta plus epsilon n. Therefore, epsilon n is the difference of square root of n un minus theta f and k by root n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta. Now, phi 1 xi are IID random variables, each with mean theta and variance sigma 1 square. Then, by Lindeberg-Levy central limit theorem, 1 by square root of n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta converges to a normal distribution with mean 0 and variance sigma 1 square. Therefore, k times 1 by root n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta converges to a normal distribution with mean 0 but variance k square sigma 1 square. Then the proof will follow if we can establish that epsilon n converges to 0 in probability as n tends to infinity. Thus, all we need to show is that expected value of epsilon n tends to 0 and variance of epsilon n tends to 0. But expected value of epsilon n is exactly 0 and expected value of epsilon n square is nothing but variance of square root of n un minus theta plus variance of k by square root of n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta minus twice covariance between square root of n un minus theta and k by square root of n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta. Denote this equation by star. Now we examine each of the terms in the right hand side of star. From the results of consistency, the first term in the right hand side of star converges to k square sigma 1 square. Again, since phi 1 xi are IID with mean theta and variance sigma 1 square, the second term in the right hand side of star again converges to k square sigma 1 square. Thus, the result will be proved if we can show that the last term without the multiplier and sign in the right hand side of star also converges to k square sigma 1 square. Since un is the sum of phi values for possible permutations of xi1 up to xik, we get the covariance as the sum of covariances between phi xi1 up to xik and phi 1 x1 multiplied by k and divided by n choose k. Now, by definition, phi 1 x1 is nothing but the conditional expectation of phi given x1. Then, fixing x1 conditionally in expected value of phi into phi 1 gives the expression expected value of phi 1 square x1. Since expected values of phi and phi 1 are both theta, we get that the covariance is sigma 1 square. Now, there are n choose 1 into n minus 1 choose k minus 1 covariance terms with value sigma 1 square. Then, we get the desired expression, that is k square sigma 1 square for the last term in the right hand side of star. Thus, we get expected value of epsilon n square tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Therefore, epsilon n tends to 0 in probability. Consequently, square root of n un minus theta minus k by root n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta converges to 0 in probability, and hence they have the same asymptotic distribution. Now, k by square root of n summation I from 1 to n phi 1 xi minus theta has an asymptotically normal distribution with mean 0 and variance k square sigma 1 square, and this completes the proof. Now, we provide some examples considering kernels of different degree. First of all, we assume kernels of degree 1. Suppose xi are IID observations from F. Now, consider estimation of mean, that is, the expected value of x1. Then the kernel is x1, which has degree 1. The corresponding U statistic is x bar. Now, phi 1 x1 is nothing but phi x1, and hence sigma 1 square is variance of x1, which is positive. Therefore, square root of n u minus theta converges in distribution to a normal variable with mean 0 and variance of x1. Next, consider estimation of rth order row moments of F. Then, the U statistic is simply the sample rth order row moment. Here, sigma 1 square is nothing but the variance of x1 to the power r. Since variance of x1 to the power r is the difference of 2rth order row moment and the square of the rth order row moment. Therefore, the result holds. Now, consider kernels of degree 2. Consider estimation of square of mean. Then, the kernel is x1 multiplied by x2, which has degree 2, and we get the U statistic as x bar square minus small s square by n, where small s square is the sample variance with divisor n minus 1. Denoting the expected value by mu and variance by sigma square, we have already established that sigma 1 square is nothing but mu square into sigma square. Thus, we get that the asymptotic distribution of x bar square minus s square by n is again normal with 0 mean and variance 4 mu square sigma square. Next, consider estimation of variance of x1. It is already shown that corresponding to the symmetric kernel half into x1 minus x2 square, assume that the fourth order population moment is finite. Then sigma 1 square is nothing but the variance of phi 1 x1. Now, variance of phi 1 x1 equal to variance of x1 minus mu square by 2 equal to mu 4 minus sigma 4 by 4. While discussing the variance finding, we have used these results. So, sigma 1 square equal to mu 4 minus sigma to the power 4 by 4, we find that s square is asymptotically normal with mean sigma square and variance mu 4 minus sigma to the power 4. Since k equal to 2, that is degree of the kernel is 2, therefore the asymptotic variance is k square into sigma 1 square, that is 4 multiplied by mu 4 minus sigma to the power 4 by 4, and hence we get the asymptotic variance as mu 4 minus sigma to the power 4. Now, we shall consider an interesting fact, that is degeneracy or stationarity of a U statistic. Now, look at the asymptotic variance of x bar square minus s square by n. The asymptotic variance is mu square into sigma square. What if mu equal to 0? Does this mean that we have a normal with mean 0 and variance 0 distribution in the limit, or something else? In such a case, however, sigma 1 square equal to 0, and hence square root of n u minus theta converges to a degenerate distribution. Thus, asymptotic normality with this norming factor does not hold. Such a situation leads to degeneracy. Formally, consider a U statistic with symmetric kernels of degree k. U is said to have a degeneracy of order m if sigma 1 square equal to sigma 2 square up to sigma m square equal to 0, but sigma square m plus 1 greater than 0. Since for a U statistic with kernels of degree k, sigma 1 square less than equal to sigma 2 square less than equal to up to sigma k square, sigma m square equal to 0 means all sigmas less than sigma m are 0. Thus, U is said to have a degeneracy of order m if sigma square m equal to 0 but sigma square m plus 1 greater than 0. This automatically implies that sigma 1 square up to sigma square m minus 1 are all zeros. So, the question is how to find a non-degenerate limiting distribution in such a case. We shall illustrate the situation by means of an example. Consider the limiting distribution of x bar square minus s square by n when mu equal to 0. Naturally, sigma 1 square equal to 0, but sigma 2 square equal to sigma to the power 4, which is non-zero. Thus, U has degeneracy of order 1. Actually, under the presence of degeneracy, we need to use different normalizing constant to reach non-degenerate limiting distribution. To obtain the limiting distribution under degeneracy, we start from an expression of n into un. Now, n into un can be expressed as a difference of two quantities. The first quantity is the square of square root n x bar multiplied by n minus 1. The second quantity is n by n minus 1 times summation xi square divided by small n. Now, 1 by square root of n summation xi whole square has asymptotically a normal distribution with mean 0 and variance sigma square. Therefore, the square, that is 1 by square root of n summation I from 1 to n xi whole square, has asymptotically a chi-square distribution multiplied by sigma square, and the degrees of freedom of the chi-square variable is 1. Now, consider the second term, that is n by n minus 1 into 1 by n summation I from 1 to n xi square. Now, 1 by n summation I from 1 to n xi square is the mean of IID random variables, where the variables are actually xi square. Therefore, by weak law of large number, 1 by n summation I from 1 to n xi square converges to expected value of x1 square, and n by n minus 1 as n tends to infinity tends to 1. Therefore, combining all this, we get that the first term converges in distribution to sigma square chi-square 1, and the second term converges in probability to sigma square. Thus, we have NUN which has two components. The first component converges in distribution to sigma square chi-square 1, and the second component converges in probability to sigma square. So one quantity converges in distribution and the other quantity converges in probability. So using Slutsky's theorem, we find that NUN converges in distribution, not in probability, to a sigma square chi-square 1 minus 1 variable. Now we find that n into un divided by sigma square converges in distribution to a chi-square 1 minus 1 variable, where the distribution of a chi-square 1 minus 1 variable is nothing but that of w minus 1, where w has a chi-square distribution with 1 degree of freedom. Therefore, we need n instead of square root of n as a normalizing factor to get a non-degenerate limiting distribution. But the limiting distribution under degeneracy is no longer normal. It is in fact some function of chi-square 1 variable. Now, we have considered only stationarity or degeneracy of order 1, but there may be degeneracy of order 2 or degeneracy of order 3. So, for more interesting results, we refer the reader to the book by Surfling. We have just established consistency and asymptotic normality of U statistics under fairly general conditions. However, our results are based on observations from a single population, but in practice, there may be a number of populations. So, in our next module, we shall extend the results for observations from multiple populations.